Welcome, everybody. I'm Patrick Cronfley, co-founder of UNIFY, and I'm here with my dear friend and co-host Isis Andrea, founder of the Academy of Oracle Arts. I'm in Austin, Texas. She is in Nevada City, California. Today, we're sitting down with a man who has spent over 40 years learning directly from the land of Iceland. Dr. Haraldur Erlendsson, who goes by Hara, is an Icelandic psychiatrist trained in Britain with decades of work in the healing of deep trauma. And alongside that path, he has walked an older one. For 3 decades, he has practiced the ancient Norse art of sitting out alone on the Iceland's mountains and glaciers, in silence, through the cold, the beauty, and the dark, to listen to the land and receive its wisdom. He learns, as he puts it, directly from the spirits of the Landvatir, a presence that in this country, Iceland, is not a story, but a living reality. He is now writing a book on the practice, drawing the connection between these old Norse ways and the sacred geometry hidden in the shape of Iceland itself. With so many of us journeying to Iceland for the total solar eclipse, we want to start from the Earth itself, then move to the heavens above. Hara believes this island is not a random geography, that its mountains are placed with intention, a kind of teaching device for those of us who know how to listen. And the great glacier that will stand behind the eclipse on the peninsula that we will be at, in his words, is the home of one of the oldest and most powerful guardian spirits in all of Iceland. So today we explore the land and its old stories, a living world of elves and dwarves, of runes and land spirits, and the eclipse itself as a sacred threshold, a moment when the curtain draws and a new life begins. Dr. Hara, thank you for being with us. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
I would love to start with you sharing about the glacier itself on the peninsula where the festival is happening. Like, what has been your experience of it personally and the time that you've spent with it and like what you've felt from being there?
Yes, I think the mountain is called the Snow Mountain or the Snow Mountain Glacier, and it has a myth of a god that is called Bárður or Bard, just like the English bard word. And he is the kind of the magician king of the land.
Hmm.
And he is kind of the equivalent of Odin. We have many names for him.
Okay.
He walks in a gray cloak with a staff, kind of the classical Gandalf image from the Lord of the Rings.
Hmm.
Uh, I my first experience of the mountain was in my teens,
Oh.
um, and I, I went up the mountain up to the south side. It is called the Heart Steep or something. Heart in the meaning of the reindeer, and I just was kind of invoking him because I had read his story in Iceland. One of the sagas is about him, how he was born in North Norway, studied with a god in mid Norway, and moved to Iceland. Um, and It's a long story on how his son became kind of the hero of the land and mastered the darkness of his forefathers. But I started in my teens just to invoke him every day, just think of the mountain, see what comes. And
Hmm.
all kind of energies and images started to come. And So I've developed a kind of a relationship that is not really linked with distance. You can connect anytime, anywhere. And then you get a hint of his presence emerging and his power. So it is a relation that goes a long way back. He is one of many of these, what the South Americans call apus, the mountain lords.
Mm.
They're similar, like European ones, Greek ones, Indian ones, even Chinese ones, and has many similarity to like Sus, to Indra, to Shiva, etc., etc. They all have abode in the mountain.
Uh-huh. Interesting. And
So
was the book?
it's a worldwide kind of spiritual tradition is that the mountains are massive vessel of consciousness where you can learn from.
Hmm. And so when you were a teenager and your first time to that mountain, did you hike up it and you went and sat and did you feel the consciousness of the mountain? Like what happened? Like what
Well,
was the effect that it had on you?
I suppose I'm a little bit strange. I started having encounters with the sacred from childhood,
Uh-huh.
and and I went with a group of friends to the glacier.
Mhm.
So we went to explore the mountain because of its history, and that's where I started having the encounters.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of where it started. Um, I started having kind of a dream journeys in my early teens that I would wake up in my dream going somewhere, I wouldn't know where, and I would end up entering some mountain to meet someone. So it was kind of a dream journeys, but these become more and more conscious with time. So the breakthrough for me was with a mountain on the east coast, which is called Hoffell, where I was working in 1991 and 2. And that was a kind of a very, very strong experience and challenging, where, yeah, which is a long story, will be in my book. But yeah, it is almost like these powers, they take you. You show interest and you are taken for a few years and your mind gets focused on certain things. So it's not necessarily, yeah, it is very enjoyable, but it takes you for a ride.
Hmm.
It is powerful.
Yeah, I've heard that the land of Iceland feels very alive and that like the
Yes,
nature, like the force of nature is very felt and that you
very
could
much
kind
so. And we had in Iceland, we were the last to lose our heathen tradition, which was very nature oriented. And it's really the 18th century when it started to get weak. We had a kind of marriage of our old ways and the Christian way in the year 1000. So the old way wasn't totally kicked out. And all our poetry, all our sagas, they're really steeped in the old ways. So some say that our old ways are Iceland's Old Testament, and the New Testament, the Christianity, is another layer, but the old layer is still the stronger one.
Mm.
of, hmm.
Wow, well, I heard earlier in the bio that you've spent a lot of time listening and silent in and there's a tradition around this. Is there an Icelandic tradition?
Yes, yeah. Uh, we have after Christianity, both in Iceland and in Norway, there were laws who forbid this tradition of sitting outside. We call it utiseta, because that was a way of invoking the gods through nature. And it was considered uh, a very serious offense, even worse than murder.
Hmm.
Wow.
because it was a threat to Christianity.
Wow.
But it was the heart of the old ways. We could say that there were two traditions. There were the holy houses, the long houses, with their myths and burning fire and initiations, and they were more ruled by the men. And then they were outside, which was more taught by the women. And we don't have as much written tradition on that, but we do have some of the stories and also the legal framework of how serious it was.
And so, how long would you, or periods of time would you spend outside in communion? Would it be many days, many nights?
For me personally, I would connect with a short stay outside, but it would often take many days of attunement before going there. So you are setting your mind a deep connection, so you already get up to it when you are there. And for example, with the snow mountain, that Lord is a relatively easy one to engage with. Some take a much longer time. Some are easy, some are difficult, some are scary. They have a fierce front, and you have to stand strong.
Which one of those?
Like in most traditions, the dark side is used in Iceland powers to test whether you are honorable and courageous. Mm. And if you don't have the ethical strengths, they will crush you. Mm. So they are very strict powers. And as we have in Iceland, even for the road makers and the house makers, if you take land without permission from the land, you will get curses from the land. The land is fierce if you disrespect it. Mm. So it is very conscious and very aware of the human occupation.
Mm. You know, I'm from the island of Guam, and very similar, there's sort of rules and protocols
yes.
Around the land and how you commune with the trees and the waterways.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And we have many traditions, many stories up to this day and age of how road makers get into trouble because they are running through sacred sites and engines break down, people have accidents, and often the psychic people are called in to negotiate to see if there is a way to appease the issue.
What does that look like when the psychics are brought in?
Well, I can tell you a story which happened when I was working on the East Coast. That was kind of the beginning of the weather changes. So I think it was 1991 or 1992. We had a very heavy rain on the East Coast, and the then biggest town in one of the fjords had a bridge going across a river, and the bridge was just taken out to sea. The river became so huge, the bridge disappeared. So the city, the capital, sent a team to rebuild the bridge. No problem. But the head guy, he started having dreams. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't change the road. Notice that stone. That's where I live. And he thought he was just going nuts. Mm-hmm. And he was getting big machinery because there's an odd, very steep angle before the road of the bridge. And he thought, we'll make it smooth, easy access. Yeah. But the dreams wouldn't let him go. But he didn't believe in it. So the day before he was going to do the big trucks to remove the stones, a lady from the village came and said, sorry to disrupt you. I've been having these dreams.
Wow.
So he said, what shall I do? So he called head office in Reykjavik and tried to bring up the issue with his boss until the boss started laughing. And he said, "It's the stone, isn't it?" Because when they had built the bridge, they had the same problem.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So they knew, and I got to know many of these road makers and all the trouble they got into. So the land is very powerful. We also even have during the World War II, when the Americans invaded the Whale Fjord and created a NATO base at the bottom of the fjord. And the farmers told them, don't disrupt the land, just to the innermost of the land. That's where the Guardians live. And they did it anyway. And we had a massive wind that actually sank some big ships for the army. So we say, we told you so. So they are fierce powers that controlled the land. Fierce powers.
It brings up this moment of inquiry. So many of us are coming to Iceland and to this holy
Yes.
place and to this
Mhm.
the glacier, and I just wanted to tune in on the how to approach and arrive and be in good relation with the spirits of the land.
Yeah, I think it's good to just think of the land beforehand
Mm.
and, touch ground when you're on the land. Honor it, show gratitude, breathe the air, meet it like a living person. Not just rush in. It's a sacred domain, and in fact, it's been a sacred domain for at least 4,000 or 5,000 years. Even though the Scandinavian Viking culture is like 1,200 years, we have myths from France, from Germany, from Greece, just like the Iliad of Homer, the Odyssey, that talk about the journey to this place, even 2000 BC, where it was used to, was a place where the Greeks sent their priest apprentice for 30 years study, 30 years. So whenever Saturn entered Taurus, they would gather a fleet of students to train for 30 years in the island of Ogygia, which is in Iceland.
Oh
So
wow.
it goes way, way back.
And I'm curious how the name of Iceland, where that comes from, or are there other names and meaning
Yeah,
and
there are many names. The word Iceland first emerges by a German tribe in southern Germany. And they tell of Siegfried, their dragon slayer, going to Iceland to find his bride. And they called it Iceland, which means kind of fireland. The English translation, Iceland, it's not incorrect, but it just takes one side of the name. But the land is divided into four parts, and each has its name. So the west is called Iceland, and in fact, the mountain where we're going is in Iceland. The north is called Garðarsholmi, the east is called Snowland, and the south is called Tili. So which is a Greek name. So they all have different names. And obviously we have the old Greek name like Ogygia, and the French from Marseille, they called it Ultima Thule, which is similar to the south part, which is called Tili. So it has many names. And obviously in the Iceland tradition, the four parts represent the four elements, and the highlands, the fifth element. So the land is kind of divided into five parts on the earth, water, air, fire, and tree.
like Odin's tree, kind of similar? Is there like a tree of life
Yes,
relation
we
to Odin?
have it in many of our stories, like Alvismál, the all-wise poem. Then the fifth element, which is linked with the throat, is very similar to the Chinese idea of the fifth element. It's called tree or forest. And it's also linked with Wodan, the god of wisdom, and obviously our tree of life, which is called Askur Yggdrasil, which is kind of an ash tree, which has an eagle, it has a dragon, it has reindeers, it has goats that give goat bliss milk. We have the squirrel. So we have some animals, and it is just a description of the makeup of man. And we have kind of 9 stations on the tree that are 6 within the body and 3 kind of outside, higher and below. So they're all kind of, we have our own chakra tradition, which is incredibly similar to both the Chinese and the Indian.
Wow. I'm so interested in learning more. And I know with that, there's an eclipse ceremony coming.
Yes.
And I'm so interested to hear what the take is on the eclipse. Like what is the purpose of an eclipse? Why are we all gathering for this eclipse, and why are we gathering to Iceland for it
Yes,
this
yes,
time?
yes. Well, I think most traditions talk about the eclipse, at least for the exoteric, as a very dangerous time. It's very dangerous. Don't travel. Stay inside. But for the esoteric tradition, it is in every tradition, like for example in the Indian traditions, it is the moment of inner illumination, inner journeying. So it gives you great power for an inner journeying. In Indian astrology, we have the great demons, Rahu and Ketu, which is known in Indian astrology. We call it the head and tail of the dragon in Western astrology. And they're seen as troublemakers for the normal person, but they are guardian angels for the spiritual journey. And they are the ones that arrange the eclipse, whether it's a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, etc. In Icelandic traditions, there are 2 wolves that are called Hati and Skolli. So you could translate it as hate and skull. So they are kind of symbols of death. But they do, in the core, sun and moon are like queen and king. So it's a union of heaven and earth. It is union of man and his spirit. It is the alignment of man to heaven and earth, so the highest and the lowest. So it's a magical moment, whether for dream journeys or inner journeys or meditations, to really connect to the most sacred. All the powers are aligned.
And brought together by these 2 wolves.
Yeah, the wolves in the extra tradition are enemy of the sun and moon.
Or enemies of the sun. Oh.
They're enemies, similar to Egypt, where you have the snake and the enemies of sun and moon. But that is the exoteric version. In the inner versions, they are the guardians and protectors. They are scary protectors because you're not allowed in unless you show honesty and purity. So they are guardians, and they're very powerful. And in Iceland tradition, we have, in the Scandinavian tradition, all of our 432 settlers that divided the land into 432 parts. They were all accompanied by a dog or a wolf. And every of those wolves have their own burial place. So in some way they're worshipped to this day, because the wolf, just in most traditions, like in Egypt where it's Anubis, they are the ones who give you guidance in a journey. They go before you. They are the scout, or could be behind you to protect you before you to go inside. And we have that story in the story of Baldur, of the snow mountain, that Heat, one of the valleys east of the mountain is the valley of Heat. And Heat is the universal mother. And she gives Gestur, the spirit journeyist, he gives him a dog to assist him on his journey. So the god the dog represents that assistance on your inner journey. So the wolf is an assistant and a guide.
Are there any other wolf mythology in Iceland
Of
besides
course,
those two?
yeah. The first two settlers in Iceland who came from Norway, they were called Ingolf and Herulf. So it literally means fire wolf, and Herulf could be warrior wolf. So they are kind of represents a wolf clan, if you like, and it's very similar to the first kings of Rome, Remus and Romulus. They were nurtured by a wolverine. So many European traditions link the pathway of kingship is led by the wolf. Obviously, we have other myths like the eagle and the dragon. So these are all power animals that assist man to become a noble being. And obviously they are both outer dream figures, but also powers within the body. So they have many levels of reality.
Interesting. You were just talking about the eagle. One of the ceremonies we'll be hosting the day after the eclipse ceremony is focused on, it's going to be called the Temple of the Bird Tribes. And it's all about the
Yes.
prophecy and the mythology of the bird tribes. Can you talk a little bit about that in Iceland?
Yes. Yes. Obviously, we have a number of sacred birds, but you could say the highest one is the eagle. And he is the Lord of Air, and he is the guardian of the North. And he is not only the guardian of the North, he is also, when you're meditating, he is the one who sits in the top of the tree. So you see him as above you, and he can give you the vision of the bigger picture. Now, we also have the raven, which is very much linked with, you could say they're both linked with Wodan and Bard, but the eagle is more the summer bird, and the blackbird, the raven, is the midwinter bird, and they represent the bird training from beginning to end. So one starts at midwinter and it ends at midsummer. So they are kind of spirit birds guiding you on the journey. We also have other birds like the goose and the swan. Very much, the swan is a very powerful, almost sublime element of the land. So he's also one of these really powerful birds that we experience as the kind of sacred beings of the land.
Are there like a good amount of the ocean birds, like the albatrosses or the seagulls?
We have lots of seagulls. We call it máfur or már. They're not spoken very much in our Viking myths. We have some of the seabirds that have very interesting names. It's not coming up in the mind right now, but there are some of the seabirds that are sacred. One of the birds in olden times was called the blackbird, but he was black and white, but he's now extinct, and he was like the raven guardian of the south. The last bird was killed something like in the 18th or 19th century. So they were unable to fly, but they stayed down in the outer islands. So when men started to take eggs, they would also hunt the birds. So they didn't stand a chance. So they are the kind of the key birds. We have many small birds like Mariarla, the busy Saint Mary. We have Thruster, I think maybe it's called a red bird. I'm not sure, red or just thrush. They're all very interesting birds, busy birds. We have the small crow, Um, so there are many birds. We have also some of the very big birds, like koi, and they have their nesting place on the seaside in the southeast of Iceland. They are very aggressive. You don't go there without a metal helmet.
Sorry, what was the name of that bird again?
Koi.
Totally.
Koi. We also have kria, which is the furthest flying bird of the planet. So they more or less go to almost Antarctica and Iceland, depending on season. They prefer summer. So they fly between north and south. They are a relatively small but very sharp bird, and also protects his nesting place. So you don't walk there without protection. They go on your head. They go for you. So yeah, they look after their young very fiercely.
As they
So
are.
yeah, the birds are definitely the element of air, and you could say also the spirit travel. In our Nordic traditions, we talk about a bird body. So Wodan and Freya, they all have a bird body. So
Hmm.
you and
Wow.
many of you can also have a wolf body, you can have a bear body, and you travel outside the body in your power animal manifestation.
So they do like Freya and Odin, they change forms into different animals depending on what is needed, or?
Yes, yes, exactly. Eagle is very much linked with the journey of the bliss. So we have this story about our sacred meat, sacred drink,
Hmm.
and Wotan brings it to the gods with the help of the eagle. So he is just like the royal symbols of the Roman Empire, the eagle and the dragon. And in Egypt, we have the bird and the cobra as the opposite sides. And obviously the powers of your kundalini and your blissful expansion. But the eagle is the one who, just like in India, the Garuda, who holds the sacred meat, which obviously is a psychedelic drink. We in our poetry we have relatively clear information about the herbs used for the sacred meat.
What are the herbs? Do you mind sharing?
Yes, well, there are 9 plants and there are 2 mushrooms. One is a blue mushrooms and the other is a red mushrooms.
Oh,
And that's obviously obvious, the psilocybin mushrooms and the fly agaric mushroom. They were also used in the mysteries of Greece, like the Elysium. And in Europe, really from the 8th to the 14th century, the church took control of this drink. And it could only be made by a local permission and a toll, and it was called grut. And it were the herbal witches that prepared the grut for beer making. And they had hallucinogenic properties and aphrodisiacs and all kind of interesting plants.
and then was it also a mead with honey too? Honey wine?
Yeah, it was obviously fermented with honey. That's why it's called mead. But then the special herbs were added.
Wow.
And how is this same or different to the Bliss goat milk that you were talking about?
Yes. The goat milk is a metaphor that has been used in multiple cultures. In the Greek sky, the sky, the planet on top of the skies within the Milky Way is called Capella, and she is the goat star, and she represents the apex of the Milky Way, and she is the nurtures with milk. And why the Milky Way? Because it's her milk. It is the graceful bliss that descends from heaven. And in Indian traditions, it is called the Chandra chakra, the moon chakra high above the head. And there are special mantras to invoke it, and there are special mudras that you do. You put the tongue at the back of the mouth, you turn your eyes to heaven, and you hold your breath until the sweet nectar descends down to your tongue. So there are many kind of yogic practices of invoking the nectar. But then obviously we have the physical nectar used for initiatic ceremonies, like in Greece and in Iceland. We have in the Nordic traditions like a 9-day vigil where you are in darkness, where you are fasting, and where you're given sacred names. And then on the 9th day, you are initiated with a sacred drink. So we have this, there are a few others similar of these old stories that are clearly initiatic traditions.
So is it 9 days of a darkness retreat that then is completed with the drink?
Yes, you're more or less in the darkness. On the 9th night, you're in the stories, it seems like torture. You're kept between two fires while the congregation invokes the 54 names of Odin. And he is chosen by the goddess of the temple because he knows he has divine capability. And following drinking the mead, he says these famous words: before I was Ugur, now I am Odin. So before I was ruled by terror, now I am Wodan himself. So through the initiation, you become God. So it was an initiation into divinity, into kingship, so we have some very interesting sacred rituals.
I'm a student of ancient Egypt, and I just love Egypt, and there's so many correlations.
Exactly, very similar.
Incredible.
Yeah. And they, as you know, in Egypt, for example, after the journey through the night of the 12 houses, you come to a sacred tree, which is the acacia tree with the DMT. Yeah, and you have offerings, and you have a goddess there, and there are mushrooms as part of the offering. So, and the acacia tree obviously has the DMT. We have it in the Old Testament as tree of good and bad, and the tree of eternal life. These are the two sacred plants in the Old Testament, and the same in ancient Egypt.
I was curious too about the ash tree. You were mentioning the ash tree in relationship to the tree of life. And is
Yes.
that similar to the Yggdrasil? And is there a relationship with the acacia and the ash as
Yes.
well?
I think in the Celtic traditions, there are like 12 trees. We have this particular tree. I'm not aware why they have chosen it. Possibly it is the name. It's kind of Ashak. It is the godly connection between heaven and earth. It's very similar also to the oak. The word oak means och, to connect to heaven and earth, like yoga. It's the connection of man to divinity. So I think the names and the trees are obviously primarily the axis of the human being, but they also are sacred beings and guardians of sacred places.
I have so many more questions. I'm so excited to spend time with you. I found myself trying to like note take everything because it's just so inspiring and really also helpful to like build a relationship with you and these stories before arriving.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. There is a lot of power, and I think it's just in your mind, call out to the sacred places and listen. Call out and bring in, invite, learn to stand in a receptive pose. And that's obviously the feminine approach. You wake up and you receive. It's the gathering of the sacred powers. It's the very feminine way. And the vulva, our teaching goddess, is very much that, to gather, to connect, to invite in. It's not about control. It's about receiving humbly.
Speaking of the feminine essence, a lot of the main ceremony will be focused on the waters. And then
Exactly.
also on the Saturday, there's going to be a ceremony in the ceremony garden fully focused on the waters and on the water dragon and the whales of Iceland.
Exactly.
Was wondering if you could
And,
share a little bit about the mythology of the water dragon, the whales, the oceans.
mhm. Well, first of all, we are meeting in the land of water. The Snæfellsnes is part of the Westlands, and it's ruled by the masters of water, and that is the great bull, who is the ruler of water and protector of the land. Now, we have all over Iceland a lot of streams and waterfalls, and they tend to be more feminine guardians than the masculine. And the whale, we have a few stories about the whale, and it's often given a negative image. He is a threat. He is a trouble. He's attacking. He's causing challenge. But it needs to be taken esoterically. Like the great dragon of Nordic mythology is called Midgardsormur, the Midgard worm. And he kind of encircles the horizon. But in the Hemisphere, which is one of our sagas, Thor goes out into the sea and uses an ox's head, and he bites and he drags him up. And he is kind of the Kundalini, lifting up the fire within yourself from the deep earth.
Hmm.
And in the core Icelandic mythology, the whale is sent by the Danish king to spy an attack on Iceland. But it's a metaphor. The Danish king is Thor himself, the ruler of the sea.
Hmm.
And he's attuning, he's connecting with the land, especially in four connections. But there are actually 108 place names around the beach of Iceland, guarding Iceland. So they are the guardians, powers. And what I find just from personal experience, wherever you are, if you just call on all the whales of the Atlantic Oceans, wow, they will come to you in mind. They are so attuned to inner connections, and they honor that. And having 2,000 people to point their mind to the sea and the whales, woo, you will get very powerful response.
Hmm.
And it's this art of sitting into receptive mode, reaching out with your yearning, with your song, and expanding consciousness, and then come back and allow the powers to come and touch you. And that's really the main thing. So you could say the water spirits are part of the rivers and the lakes, but we also link it with the sea. And that's the whale. That's the dragon. That's the all around encircling Iceland as a guardian protective energy.
I even feel the whales right now, knowing that we're talking with them. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
they're so.
Sadly, we're still hunting whales in Iceland, killing them.
I
But
heard
obviously been
recent. I
cut
heard.
down a lot, but it's still happening. It's happening this year. It hasn't been happening for a few years.
Yeah, I heard
So
that
that's quite.
recently they just opened up the laws again and people could hunt the whales again, or what's
Well,
going
every year the government decides whether to allow it or not.
on? Uh-huh.
But there's obviously worldwide oppositions, and we mainly sell our whale meat to Japan. But no harbor will allow the ship to land anywhere on the way. There is
Uh-huh.
such strong worldwide opposition.
Uh-huh.
So it is difficult to ship it.
Uh-huh. Well, it's good that there's worldwide opposition. Is there a lot of local opposition as well?
Yes, yes. Yeah, and also Greenpeace and other, a lot of movement have been very strong opposing it.
Hmm.
Because these are sacred beings that guard our land. These are the most biggest animals on the planet. They're very powerful and they're very conscious.
Yeah.
And And we are obviously starting to learn the language with help of AI, which is
Hmm.
fascinating. And as you may know, the biggest whales can talk to each other on each end of the pole. Their deep wave of song can travel
Wow.
thousands of miles. So they're just majestic beasts.
And I heard that on the peninsula, right at the tip there where the two waters meet, that you could
Yes,
see orcas often.
yes, yes. Yeah, and if you go sailing, I'm sure you could also see the bigger whales.
Hmm.
You can even sail from Reykjavik. There are a whale excursion from Reykjavik. There are whale excursions like from Akureyri in the north. I've taken one of those, and you see these huge beings, and they are respectful for you. They don't attack your boat, but they
Yeah.
can give you an eye.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, they're fascinating creatures.
Yeah, actually, one of my childhood deepest spiritual experiences that was like part of my awakening happened with
Yes.
a whale.
Wow.
And
Yes.
and it was there's two moments. Uh,
Yeah.
one was my father had sailboats growing up,
Yes.
and we would
Yeah.
in the spring, the summer, we would go sailing
Yeah.
in Southern California. And there was one time when we were coming back, and we had a big boat. It was 54 feet, so let's say almost 20 meters.
Yes.
And we were just coming back into the marina, and this big whale came up like really, really close to us, and it was bigger than the entire boat. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
remember, like, as a little kid, I was just like, I used to do this thing where I used to like hang a rope onto
Yeah.
the back of the boat and just like lean in the back and sometimes jump in the water. And I was
Yeah.
leaning back, and then my
Yeah.
body was kind of like over the ocean. And my father had to turn the boat, and there was this big whale, and I could like feel it,
Yeah.
inside me.
Yeah.
And it was
Wow.
just like created all this wonder.
Yes.
Uh, and then there was a time earlier in my life. I mean, I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, maybe a little bit earlier. And this
Yeah.
is partially a sad story. We went to SeaWorld in San Diego, and then
Yes.
they have that show with Shamu, which is the
Yeah.
whale, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
spectacular show and this and that. At the end of the show, they take the orca whale onto this platform next to the
Yes.
audience, and they pick one person from the audience to come and sit on the Shamu. And like
Wow.
I was like a little kid, I was raising my hand, and they chose me of the thousands of people to come and sit
Great.
on the whale. And to this day, I still have the memory and the feeling of the power and the majesty of that being, and like
Yes.
it
Yes.
pulsing through me. And I like that's one
Yeah.
of like my earliest memories of really feeling like the force of nature, beyond
Absolutely.
my own self.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I have like such a deep love and respect for the whale beings, and excited
Yeah.
to spend time in Iceland where it's like part of the culture.
Yeah. Sadly, our culture is so money oriented and lacks kind of respect for nature, for
Yeah,
animals, for the land, and it's all about taking.
yeah.
That's our kind of capitalistic Western world. It lacks that deeper respect for consciousness.
For everyone around the world who's coming there, what are some ways that they can give to the land
Well, I
there? I
think
know
there's
there's some
so
ancient
much magic.
practices.
Yeah, there's so much magic in general of just harmonizing 2,000 or 2,000 people. That's just consciousness shifting. And if you give that mind a task to breathe in the sacred, to connect with land, to connect with the whales, that's going to have a deep, profound effect on humanity and
Hmm.
life itself. Yeah, I think it's awesome, and obviously blessing those who participate in it. They will never quite be the same.
Hmm. And you
Yeah.
were mentioning on a previous call about some practice of building stone altars, and that it would be really cool if people from around the world brought little rocks or stones with them.
Yes, I think I think it's wonderful you're coming to Iceland, but as we joke about Iceland, there is no weather in Iceland. You get samples. So even in August, you could have snow, hailstorm, thunder, you could have rain, you could have beautiful weather. You never know, you could get a storm. And we find that the weather spirits in Iceland, they are very attuned to consciousness. And if you respect them and honor them, they will give you the weather you need. So I suggested that we create elemental altars, and especially for the air element, and people go to that place to honor the weather spirit and ask for a bit of clear sky, a bit of still weather, so that you learn to tune, to the horizon, to the clouds, to reach up, reach out, with honor, with respect, and with a wish.
Hmm.
And an altar is a good place to remind you to do that.
Hmm.
And I bring a stone to the offering, just a way of respect, or even a feather for the air element, is a way of gathering those wishes at the altar.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's even people on our team. They're going to bring little tiny vials of water as well
Yes,
from their
wonderful.
to
Yes,
come and put at the altar. So we have waters from around the world meeting the waters of
magic.
Iceland.
Yeah, stone and water. Yes, that's
We'll,
good.
we'll, we'll bring from the Yuba, the Uba, or Yuba is the holy waters here of Nevada City. So I'll be sure to bring some from here.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Magic waters. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, we're
Yeah.
about to wrap up here. Are there any like final words you want to share with the community that's coming?
But you're welcome to the land. Feel the energy of the land. Don't rush. Sit down, receive, listen, call out, receive. That's the thing. Breathe it in, breathe it out. Meet it with gratitude. Then the land will respond.
Hmm. Like that. Such an important lesson to do in all of life as
Yeah,
well, right?
cool.
Hmm. Isis, any last parting words or questions?
Just want to say thank you so much. We're really honored to meet you, connect with you, learn with you, and be in good relation as we arrive. So thank you so much. What an honor.
Look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Dr.
Take good care.
Haraldur, have a good one and goodbye, everybody. We will see you in Iceland.